All right, welcome back. We are diving into the final episode of the SEO miniseries, and today we are zeroing in on blogging, an absolute powerhouse for SEO. And no, blogging is not dead. If you've ever wondered how to actually leverage your blog to rank higher, reach more people, and become a true resource, then this episode is for you. I'll be walking you through my step-by-step blogging process, covering everything from keyword research to crafting headers, and even those SEO details that often go overlooked and that I forget myself, but make all the difference in the long run. Whether you're just starting out or looking to take your blog strategy up a notch, I'm here to break it all down and share the secrets that make the blog post work for you. So let's get started. I am on a journey to get better in all areas of my life, and I want to do it with you. Welcome to the Being Better Everyday podcast, where we dig deep into all the things a millennial mom needs to know. From how to juggle your passions with your full-time job, to asking the hard questions about hormones and health, and learning from one another along the way. I am Julie Wenslick, and as a mom, business owner, and corporate girly, sometimes life can feel like a lot. So join me in the journey of being better every day, where we create habits and routines that support your life, create calm in the chaos, and put the you back in your everyday. Grab those headphones, put on your shoes, and join me on a walk while we get started with today's episode. Today, as I mentioned, I am going to be focusing not only on the SEO metrics and key things that you need to be doing from a blogging perspective, but also my overall process, because that process has certainly changed in the last year and a half with the enhancement of AI. So first of all, I think one of the most common misconceptions, and one myself that I had, is that blogging actually doesn't help you anymore because there's just too much content out there in the universe. And I will say that is true if you don't know how to properly leverage SEO and keywords in order to actually get results. So first things first, I have mentioned this in upper episodes, but I am a blogger. And ultimately what I'm doing right now is repurposing my podcast episodes into blogs to allow for a greater impact. So from a high level perspective, I think it's important to talk through my process first, and then we'll talk about the components of a blog. And I'm going to use a real world example of just a random example to talk through how I would approach the content if I was writing about it. So I have been batching content today. So the process is very fresh in my mind. And I will say that everything I do complements each other. And that allows me to be efficient and have the systems that are extremely important when you are doing this in part-time hours. So let's take this episode that I'm recording as you sit and listen to this. I'm recording the episode. And what I will do is currently I edit in CapCut. I have the free version of CapCut, and they are slowly reducing the amount of things that you can actually do on CapCut for free. So I might, if you have a video editor that you love that does not cost money, message me on Instagram or email me, because I would love to know of a better resource. But for now, what I do is I edit my video on CapCut. One of the cool things about CapCut is it does allow you to edit via transcript. So if I say the word which yes, I do, and I don't always cut out all of the ums, you can edit those by visually deleting ums, which creates a more efficient podcast editing process. I am one who doesn't outsource a ton in my business, just from a cost and profitability perspective. So I will edit the video, and then I export the video to my computer. It's an MP4 file because it's a video. And then I take that video. I have a free MP3 converter on my computer. I convert it to MP3, and then I uploaded it to my podcasting platform, Podbean. Podbean then has an AI tool that will automatically write the podcast description. It doesn't do a great job. So what I do then is I take that description and I copy it over to ChatGPT. ChatGPT I have programmed for my brand voice, and it actually is really, really good at outputs right now. It's learned, if you know what I mean. And so I will then have it regenerate a podcast description based on my brand voice. And almost always I don't have to edit it then. I love what it says. It sounds like me. It's something that I agree with. So then I will schedule my podcast episode on Podbean. I will then take that MP4 file of my podcast and the podcast description from Podbean and replicate it to YouTube. Now, I will say I'm not optimizing YouTube as YouTubers do because it's not a core focus of mine. It's to gain visibility on my podcast, but I am certainly not looking to monetize YouTube or grow exponentially fast over at YouTube. So I'm sure there's things that I could do from an SEO perspective, from a greater perspective at YouTube, but for now, all I do is I take my video podcast, I upload it to YouTube, I create a thumbnail, and then I schedule it over on YouTube at the same time that I schedule on Podbean. From there, I have a free, it's called TurboScribe. TurboScribe allows you, I think it's 3 hours a day of transcript. So I am then uploading my podcast to TurboScribe, getting the transcript from it for free, exporting that, importing that into ChatGPT, giving ChatGPT my keywords, which is we will talk about with the blog process, and then having ChatGPT draft me a 1,500 or more word blog based on my podcast. So I'm giving it my podcast and I'm giving it my keywords, and then it drafts the blog for me. I will say it gets me 90% of the way there. I then make sure it makes sense, that it sounds like me, and I schedule it. Again, could my blogs be stronger? Yeah, but I also don't have time. So a blog process that would normally take somebody maybe 4 to 6 hours is taking me less than an hour to do with the help of my podcast transcript and ChatGPT. So one podcast episode is then replicated to YouTube. It's replicated to my blog. And in theory, if I was active on my email list, I would then email it out as well. But for now, my email list is mostly to deliver additional value in the form of my freebies, like my SEO monitoring tools, my Pinterest guide, and my annual business planning guide. So where I'm going with this is if you are a podcaster, if you are a YouTuber, I highly recommend that you leverage a blog to get additional views and reach and engagement on your long form content. Your blog can help drive traffic back to your podcast or your YouTube. But it is very important that your blog is then optimized or it won't work as good. Guess it depends, but generally, again, the more reach, the better. And there are certainly things you need to be doing from a blogging perspective to optimize that. So let's get into it because it's all about SEO and it's all about those keywords. So a couple things. When we look at building brand authority or domain authority, certainly having fresh content from a Google perspective helps. So if you're wanting to build your authority with search engines, having regular, fresh, long form content is going to help. And again, that comes in the form of blogs. It also then will obviously drive traffic to your blog. So it's important to have calls to actions and next steps on your blogs. And then it will allow you to warm lead that customer. Hopefully you have an email list opt-in or something on those blogs. Now, what the biggest mistake that I see and the place that you need to start if you are somebody who is creating long form content is with the keywords. The majority of entrepreneurs make that mistake where they're not starting with the actual keyword. They're starting with a content idea, writing the content, and then kind of backfilling in keywords. So what I would suggest you do is you should go back to my episode about keywords and identify those long tail keywords that you want to include in your title and your subheaders with regards to the relevant topic. So for example, I pulled something from another course that I had done. This is not my keyword research. It is Dual Collectives who have done the course through. But they did a kind of holiday guide based on specific keywords. So I pulled one just as an example. And for example, the blog idea for virtual assistants would be virtual assistants, how to outsource for holiday stress relief. So a couple things there, right? You can already see that there's going to be keywords within that. The content, the actual blog header would be how virtual assistants can help reduce holiday stress for small business owners. So keywords that are in there, right? Virtual assistants, reduce holiday stress, small business owners. Keywords that you can then use throughout the blog would be virtual assistants for small business, outsourcing during the holidays, holiday business support, hiring a VA for holiday season, virtual assistant tasks. Now, if you remember from my keyword episode, right, these are all long tail keywords. These are all keywords that are more than 2 words, ideally 4 to 5. And those, if you have a domain authority under 10, are going to allow you a better chance of ranking on a quicker and just more relevant basis. So when you are approaching your content, you need to think about drafting your keyword focuses first. And if you're using ChatGPT like myself to help be your assistant in drafting the original, like the first draft of the blog, you need to tell ChatGPT what your keyword focuses are, because otherwise they will draft a maybe great sounding blog, but if there isn't keyword focuses in it, you will not get results. You will not be seen on Google. So step 1, identify those keywords. Step 2, then plan your headers and subheadings based on those keywords. And again, you could tell ChatGPT, use this keyword in my main header, use this keyword in my H2 header. You can tell them that in order to get better results from a AI output. The other thing that I mentioned in the beginning, and that is very important as far as your blog checklist, is that each blog should have at least, hopefully, 1,500 words. Now, that is obviously a generalized statement, but the more words, the more headers, and again, quality content, that is going to be a better chance of being read by Google. Because if somebody is looking to answer how to outsource during the holiday season, and you only have 250 words on that blog, well, it's not going to be quality enough for that person to stay and understand that that is relevant. And again, the technology of Google can read that. So, word count definitely matters. Now, I should pause here and say, because of this checklist, because of the ask of a couple of my entrepreneurs, I have created an on-page and blog SEO, like quick 1-page checklist of things you should be keeping in mind whenever you create web pages or blogs. So if you go to the show notes, you can click on the link and download that. That will help you kind of remember everything that I'm talking about during today's episode. So the next thing to think about when you are thinking about blogging is a clear and concise URL. One of the things that I see business owners do is duplicate content year over year. So if I have an annual checklist that is for Mother's Day, and my original URL is 2022 Mother's Day gift guide, that will cause issues long term, because when you have duplicate content, that also then gets deprioritized. So instead of duplicating a blog to refresh it for the new year, what you should be doing is updating your original blog. And then, sometimes when you search things, you'll see like update 2024, update 2025. People actually like that because then they know that it's current. So, and that would be in like the parentheses in the SEO title. But what you don't want to do is copy a blog and have similar copy year over year. You do not want to have duplicate blogs, duplicate copy within your web pages, again, because Google will deprioritize that. And so when it comes to clear URLs, you should have shortish URLs that are relevant keywords. So if I was doing the virtual assistants can help reduce holiday stress for small business owners, my blog URL might be reducing stress during the holidays, or I don't know, virtual assistants reducing holiday stress. Something where it's pulling a couple of those keywords, but not obviously the entire tag or the entire title of the blog. So think about the fact that you do not want to have dates in your URLs. And you do not want to have them be too long, but you do want them to be somewhat keyword rich. So that is, it's going to be dependent on the content, but do not put dates. Do not put anything that would be too generic that you might need that URL for other things. I said this in episode 3 of my SEO mini series as well, but make sure then you are also creating unique SEO title and meta descriptions. So your SEO title, right, should be between 50 and 60 characters. Your meta description should be around 125. Again, this is where AI and ChatGPT can become your best friend. So you already know at this point, because you've planned it out, what your keywords are going to be. So you should then take those keywords, say, hey, create me an SEO title and a meta description using these keywords or one or two of those, right? Whatever your main keywords are. And that SEO title should be something that engages users, that's going to want them to or entice them to click on it. And again, that meta description should have a click or a call to action or something that will help with your increasing your click-through rate. Because if you do not have a meta description that is relevant to the content, you are less likely to have somebody actually click through to your blog, even if you are being seen on Google. Now, the third, or I lost count, but the next thing is image optimization. So there's a couple things here. We talked about alt text within episode number 3. Go back if you need a refresher on what alt text is. But the other thing to think about, and I don't think I mentioned this in the last episode, but this is going to be site-wide, blog inclusive, is that you should make sure that your images are always less than 1 megabyte. So you need to make sure that all of your images on your website are compressed, that they are less than 1 megabyte. If you have a GIF, I would say under 2 megabytes, and there are free websites, Google how to compress an image if you don't know how. My way of doing it is I actually usually just put the images or GIFs into Canva and download as JPEGs for images and GIFs as GIFs, obviously. And then I'll use a GIF compressor. So if you do correct image sizing on Canva, they're almost always really small. It's very helpful. It just depends kind of on the type of image you're downloading and what you're doing, but make sure that your images that you're using are always less than 1 megabyte and that you are putting in your alt text when you are completing your blog. Now, when it comes to SEO and blog covers, I will say I'm still new there. We haven't quite figured out with testing and with others what best practices there are for blogs, and what we have done in the past, and where the kind of guidelines that I've been following for myself is generally I follow the rules of YouTube thumbnails, which is 5 to 7 words max if you're going to have words on it, and that it needs to be legible at like 30% if you're looking at it on Canva. So if you like zoom out, right, and make the image small, can you still read it? And somewhat, obviously it needs to be brand specific. It needs to go in alignment with your overall brand. But other than that, I use a specific size, but that's going to be dependent on my blog. It really depends on your blog. But generally, depending on your platform, you should have kind of a consistent sizing, consistent imaging, so that it just makes your life easier too when it comes to overall creating content on a long-term basis. For one of my clients, we created a blog template for products as well as reviews and just overall like informational blogs, so that she knows how many images she needs every time she blogs, as well as the general layout, so she knows what type of images to look for. So blog templates are definitely something, depending on your platform, that are very helpful. That would be more specific to like WordPress or Showit. As far as Squarespace or Wix, not, Squarespace, I just copy an existing blog. You could absolutely create a template and have it hidden. I just haven't done that in the past. Now, the fourth so if we look at, we've talked about identifying keywords, planning your headers and subheadings, making sure you have enough word count, making sure you have a clear and concise URL, and then when you're kind of finishing that content, updating your SEO title and meta description. and then optimizing your images. The other thing to always keep in mind is your linking strategy. So internal links are going to be links where you're linking to other relevant content within your own website. Again, from a domain authority perspective, Google is going to like if you are linking relevant content and people follow those links. It's showing Google that you're creating quality content. It also will then keep people on your website, which is obviously important. So try to make sure you have at least one internal link on your blog, every single blog. Obviously, as a newer blogger, that might be harder, but long term, certainly keep that in mind. And or if you're linking freebies or you're linking your services or you're linking another blog that you've created, again, those are going to be the internal linking strategies. And then from an external linking strategy, you would then choose reputable sites that will boost your post's credibility. So for example, if we're using that concept of the virtual assistant blog again, I did a quick search to outsourcing to virtual assistants. And one of the top web pages that came up was from Thinkific, which is a course platform. And the blog is How to Hire a Virtual Assistant, an Entrepreneur's Guide to Outsourcing and Hiring Virtual Staff. So you could easily link that blog, the Thinkific blog, into your blog. Now, it could be a link in a header. You could take an actual quote from this blog. You could, depending on where you're going with it, you take tidbits from it and source it. But your Thinkific is a reputable platform. It's going to be something that's not going to be a direct competitor to you as a small business owner. And therefore, it would be a great option as an external linking strategy. So I've used the example before in other episodes about the Pilates instructor that I work with. We often use blogs to more like technical sides of Pilates definitions. We will link to Joseph Pilates' website. The doula, again, similar thing. You could be linking to informational sites, right? Not other doulas, but things that are related. And then again, you're either linking a keyword or linking a quote from them, but bringing in other reputable content into your own blog to help build your domain authority. So at least one external link, ideally 2 to 3, but it totally depends on the content. What it looks like for me with blogging, I'm certainly not using a ton of external links because most of it is show notes and or making my podcast episode into a blog, but I will try to target at least one external link per blog. Now, finally, the other thing to think about is mobile friendliness, and that's just going to be a general rule with any website. I've mentioned this in the past, but Google only crawls websites that are mobile optimized at this point. So if you are creating a blog and it is not mobile optimized, there is no point in creating it because it will not be crawled. Now, most web platforms are automatically mobile optimized, so it will certainly depend on the platform that you're on, but that is going to be something that you're just going to want to make sure that is done. And then finally, most importantly, and often missed, is when your blog goes live, and I'm like in my head, I'm like, I have a blog going that just went live and I forgot to do this. So this is very common to miss, is you need to submit that blog to your Google Search Console and have Google immediately crawl that website. So this is very easy to do in Google Search Console. If you want a refresher on how to do that, download my SEO monitoring tools guide that explains how to do it. But from an indexing perspective, it's going to give you much faster indexing. And then obviously, if you're sharing it on social media and getting other engagement through other channels, that'll help you index faster as well and give you a better opportunity to rank. Now, again, full circle, hopefully you're creating a blog that is tied to other long form content. So for me, my podcast, my YouTube, and my blog are all generally the same or complementary topics. I'm not mostly writing a standalone blog unless it's going towards a freebie. I'm writing a blog that corresponds with what you're listening to today, which is a podcast episode. So it just allows you to get better longevity out of your content, regardless if it's a blog or YouTube or podcast or I don't know, other long form content. I can't think of anything else. So again, highly encourage you to download the checklist. So everything I mentioned today, you can find on that checklist and have kind of that quick cheat sheet. But when it comes to being intentional about your long form content, certainly having these markers of identifying those relevant keywords, planning out those headers and subheaders, making sure you have a long enough word count, optimized images, SEO title and meta description. These are all things you need to be thinking about when you're blogging. And yes, it takes a little bit more attention, but trust me, you will get better results out of your long form content. And that's what it's all about. We have blogs that are still getting, 6 months later, we have a blog that I'm working with an entrepreneur that has quote unquote gone viral, and she's getting thousands of clicks through to her website a month on that specific page, and that also has affiliate linking, so she is making revenue direct from that web page, all because of the SEO optimization that we have put into her blogs. Again, blogging is such a powerful tool when it comes to SEO. It is where creativity meets that strategy. When you break it down into steps like this, it's amazing how much impact each detail can have, from the keywords you choose to the links you include. So make sure to be intentional and keep on taking one step towards being better every day. And that's a wrap on today's episode of the Being Better Everyday podcast. Thank you for listening. I truly appreciate each listener. If you've enjoyed the conversation, I'd love if you would leave a rating and review or share it with your bestie to help me reach more women looking to ask the hard questions and live above that status quo. To see any visuals, head over to my YouTube channel. Links, socials, and resources mentioned can be found in today's show notes. If you're looking for more, you can find me on Instagram at Julie.pw Designs, sharing the behind the scenes of my everyday life as a millennial mom, corporate girly, and small business owner. Until next time, keep on taking one step at a time towards your version of being better every day.